She was the most desired woman in America. In 1982, a single scene, 4 seconds of film, made Phoebe Cates the fantasy of an entire generation. Every teenage boy in the country knew her name. Every studio in Hollywood wanted her face on a poster. She had the looks, the talent, and a career that was going nowhere but up. Then she walked away. Not slowly, not reluctantly. She just stopped. No breakdown, no scandal, no drugs, no disaster. This is what really happened to Phoebe Cates, the actress who chose to disappear. Phoebe Belle Cates was born on July 16, 1963, in New York City. And from the very beginning, her life looked nothing like the usual Hollywood origin story. There was no struggling single mother, no trailer park in the Midwest, no desperate ambition to escape poverty and make it to the big screen. Phoebe Cates grew up in Manhattan, in one of the most culturally connected families in the city. Her father, Joseph Cates, was a television producer, the man who produced the very first Grammy Awards telecast. Her uncle was Gilbert Cates, a Broadway and film director of considerable reputation. Culture wasn't something the Cates family aspired to. It was the air they breathed. But here's the thing about growing up surrounded by the entertainment industry. It removes the illusion. Most kids dream of Hollywood because they've never seen how it actually works. Phoebe Cates saw it up close from childhood. She knew exactly what it cost. She attended the Professional Children's School in New York City, an institution specifically designed for young performers. She studied dance seriously, training at the School of American Ballet. There were real aspirations of becoming a professional dancer. Then, at 13, a knee injury ended that path. With dance no longer an option, Cates began modeling, and modeling noticed her immediately. By the time she was 16, her face was appearing in 17 magazine. By 17, she had appeared on the cover of magazines across Europe and the United States. The camera, it turned out, loved her in ways that dance studios never could have predicted. She had a quality that's difficult to describe and impossible to manufacture. Dark hair, green eyes, a smile that somehow managed to be both wholesome and knowing at the same time. She looked like the girl next door, if the girl next door had been raised in a Manhattan brownstone and trained at one of the best ballet academies in the world. Acting came almost by accident. In 1982, at 18 years old, Phoebe Cates was cast in her first film. It was a low-budget beach movie called Paradise, a film that was, to put it generously, not great. But it was a start, and what was coming next would change everything. In 1982, director Amy Heckerling was making a film based on Cameron Crowe's undercover journalism about a California high school. The film was called Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It had a cast that reads, in retrospect, like a who's who of actors on the verge of becoming something. Sean Penn, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Forrest Whitaker, Judge Reinhold, Nicolas Cage in a tiny role before anyone knew his name. Phoebe Cates was cast as Linda Barrett, the knowing, worldly best friend who serves as a guide to the film's more innocent main character. It was a supporting role. She had maybe 15 minutes of total screen time. But there was one scene. You know the scene. Everyone who has ever seen this film knows exactly which scene. Linda Barrett stepping out of a swimming pool in slow motion, in a red bikini, while a certain Roy Orbison song plays on the soundtrack. It became one of the most iconic moments in 1980s cinema. It was referenced in other films. It was parodied. It was replayed in a culture that couldn't quite get enough of it. And overnight, Phoebe Cates was famous, not just recognizable, not just working. Famous. The kind of famous that happens when a single image burns itself into the collective memory of a generation. What followed was exactly what you'd expect. Every studio wanted her. Every director wanted to cast her. She was on magazine covers. She was the face of a particular American fantasy, smart enough to be interesting, beautiful enough to stop a room. In 1983, she appeared in Valley Girl alongside Nicolas Cage, a film that became a genuine cult favorite and showed she could actually act, not just look good in front of a camera. Then came Gremlins in 1984. Gremlins was not a small film. Directed by Joe Dante, produced by Steven Spielberg, it became one of the highest-grossing movies of 1984, a year that also included Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Gremlins made over $150 million at the box office on a budget of $11 million. Phoebe Cates played Kate Barringer, the female lead. She was in the film that everyone was seeing. And then came the moment that even longtime fans sometimes forget, the Christmas monologue. A scene where Kate explains, quietly and devastatingly, why she hates Christmas. It became one of the most unexpectedly dark and beloved moments of the entire film. She didn't just deliver it, she landed it. The audience laughed, then felt guilty for laughing. That's not easy to do. By the end of 1984, Phoebe Cates was one of the most recognizable actresses in America. She was 21 years old. The entire industry was at her feet. Then she met Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline was in 1983 one of the most respected theater actors in New York. He had won Tony Awards on Broadway. He was about to break into film with Sophie's Choice. He was 36 years old, 13 years older than Phoebe Cates, and by every conventional measure of Hollywood logic, they made no sense together. They met on the set of The Big Chill in 1983. Cates had a small role in the film, the kind of blink-and-you-miss-it appearance that was a stepping stone, not a destination. But something happened between them on that set that neither of them had planned for. They began a relationship quietly, privately, in the way that neither of them seemed particularly interested in performing for the public. No red carpets together. No magazine spreads about their love story. Just two people who had found each other and weren't particularly interested in sharing that with the world. Back in Hollywood, Cates kept working. In 1986 came Date with an Angel. In 1988, Bright Lights, Big City alongside Michael J. Fox. She appeared in Shag in 1989. She was still visible, still working. But something had changed. Or, rather, something was becoming clearer. She and Kevin Kline married in 1989. The following year, their first child, a son named Owen, was born. And Phoebe Cates began, very quietly, to step back. Not dramatically. Not in a way that generated headlines or concerned publicists or prompted worried calls from her agent. She just started saying no to auditions, to offers, to the machinery of a career that had been building for nearly a decade. In 1993, she appeared in Bodies, Rest, and Motion. The following year, she had a role in Princess Caribou, and it was a good performance, a genuinely interesting film. But it felt less like a comeback and more like a goodbye. In 2001, she made a small cameo in The Anniversary Party, a film directed by her husband's frequent collaborator. And then, nothing. No announcement. No press conference. No tearful interview about the price of fame. Phoebe Cates simply stopped making films. Her last credited acting role was 2001. She was 37 years old. Hollywood did not know what to do with this. The industry runs on ambition, on the desire for more, always more. An actress voluntarily walking away from a career at the height of her desirability was not just unusual, it was practically incomprehensible. The rumor mill filled the silence, as it always does. There were whispers of feuds with directors, of difficult behavior on set, of a marriage in trouble, of health problems nobody was discussing publicly. Because the alternative, that she just didn't want it anymore, seemed impossible to believe. But that was exactly what had happened. Today, Phoebe Cates is in her early 60s. She and Kevin Kline have been married for over 35 years, a duration that, in Hollywood terms, qualifies as a geological age. Their children are grown. She lives, by all accounts, a private and apparently contented life in New York. She does not have an Instagram account. She does not give interviews. She does not appear at nostalgia conventions or do press tours for streaming platforms desperate to capitalize on 80s nostalgia. She is, in the most literal sense, a private citizen.